find Klatch right away when you moved here to California? Or how long? I'm trying to gauge how long you've known the family for.
I was relegated to Starbucks because I didn't know anything. What was my first coffee place? I used to go to, I think for the first couple of years, I went to Starbucks at the study because I used, before I was in the habit, when I came here, I was in the habit of, I would go and study at a cafe and then I would go and go over my notes before I would go preach. So Saturday night, Sunday, so I was at Starbucks all the time, and it was the one down on Grand. Grand and Badillo, right on the corner there.
Did you have a grand time there?
I had a grand time there. It was grand. And what was my drink of choice then? Probably Americano or a latte. Never really enjoyed it, but I love the atmosphere of studying. How did I come to Klatch? Because Klatch has been there forever.
Yeah. Well, I think I remember you saying in the last episode of the podcast that you spent a fair bit of time at Classic in Glendora.
Yeah.
For a while.
There's been an evolution like that. As a matter of fact, isn't it funny? I lived when I first came in West Covina, so all my time was spent that side of the church. So everything I went to was that side of the church.
Is there good coffee over there?
No, not at all. And then I must have, when I moved to Upland, I must have started going home this way and seen Klatch. And I think that's what happened. And then I learned that they were the number one coffee house in America. They were voted the number one coffee house in America in 2006. Did you know that?
I didn't.
The number one coffee house in the United States of America.
It's not just like the roasting; it's like the shop.
No, it's the roasting. It's everything involved, and they've won barista awards.
Yeah.
Wow,
Jeff. This is a couple weeks ago. I sent you a text and asking what was on your mind and what you might want to talk about, and you replied with the upcoming election.
Yeah,
and that was it. So
on everybody's mind around the world.
Yeah. It's that time here in America. So tell us what's behind that text. What's on your mind?
Yeah, well, I'm I'm 56 years old. I just turned 56. So obviously there's some history here with watching how our nation's gone and watching the elections and what are hot button issues. And there's a few things. What's interesting to me, number one, is that there's a lot of people who think we've never been here before. It's being sold this year as the most important election in the history of our nation.
Yeah.
And, I think, it has a lot of important issues to it, but we've had crucial elections in the past, and we've had crucial times in the past. We've had social unrest in the past, and you have to be a little older to know that, and we've always recovered. We are a strong country. But I think that's one of the ploys by both parties, because both parties want to win so badly that I think it's a ploy to get everybody out to vote. And it's working. It's working. I do believe that more people will vote. And here's why. Because the one thing is true about our nation, it's never been this divided.
Okay, right.
Not this way. We've had division, but it's almost down the line.
Yeah. It's
almost you're in this side or that side. And so the thing that I've seen that's really disappointed me is that we Christ followers, somebody asked me the other day, aren't you going to be devastated if this party gets in? And I said, no, because my hope has always been in the kingdom of God. And there are some ways that you will have more potential to minister if the party that most Christians would vote for, it appears like the most evangelicals will go with Trump. And by the way, I also have a clear understanding of why. I understand why they would, for sure. But if Trump were not elected and it goes the other way, am I going to be depressed and am I going to leave the country, commit suicide? It's crazy what some of these people are saying. If that proves if your hope and trust is in that, you're in big trouble.
Can you elaborate on, let's just go there, why? What is the why? Why somebody would vote Or why do evangelicals
Let's
particularly
go both
would vote
sides.
for Trump?
The reason an evangelical will tell you they will vote for Trump is because, one, they want a more conservative Supreme Court. So that's one reason. The abortion issue, I know both sides of the argument.
Sure.
The Democrats will tell, but wait a minute, there are actually less abortions when the Democrats are in. I've heard that argument too. And the Republicans will tell you, but wait a minute, just the fact that abortion is okay in third trimesters is not okay. And that seems to be the distinction between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. What happens once they get in office still is a mystery. I mean, it is a mystery. But the Republican evangelical party would tell you, let me go back. The evangelicals mostly would tell you that I cannot support a party that is that flippant with abortion and things like same-sex marriage to them and things like the what we call a literal reading of the Constitution. Now, that's a whole debate we could get into, but you asked me why. I'm trying to do it in short spurts.
Yeah.
So those are the main reasons. Now, those who are Democrats who are Christ followers, their rebuttal is, but hold on a minute, wait a minute. Because, an evangelical will say to a Christian Democrat, and for a lot of people, they think that's an oxymoron, but they would say this to them. They say, how can you vote for a party that is pro-abortion, pro-same-sex marriage, rewriting history, all of this stuff. And of course, the Democrat who's a Christ follower would say, well, how can you vote for a party that keeps the poor man down, that passes policies of a trickle-down effect, but it's good in theory, but it never works its way down. And of course, the Republican response, yeah, but that's not what happened when a Democrat, it goes back and forth and back and forth. So both hold very true to their ideas, and there's good arguments on both sides, there's no doubt, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. There are good arguments on both sides.
Right.
But let's make sure, though, that, our hope is in the kingdom of God. Ultimately, my hope is in Jesus. And, whoever wins the election, I'm going to assume that God is sovereign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so whoever, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
What would you say if you're not, what would you say to somebody, so not looking at the person, but only looking at the policy, what would you say to somebody who's in a pickle or a dilemma, even voting for policy where they're like, I'm not even sure that me voting for this policy on either way is going to help advance God's kingdom on earth? Where they're in a dilemma where not only do I think the person is lesser of two evils, I also think policy is lesser of two evils, and I don't even know if I can ascribe my vote to something.
Well, I think you got to vote your conscience, and sometimes that may mean you can't vote for either. You have to go with where you. This is why prayer is important. Knowledge is important to understand the issues. Shaming and canceling out is not going to do anybody any good.
Totally.
And I've always thought the no vote has to be a last resort because you've got to do your homework on that and try to get past the person. I know that's hard.
Sure.
I know that's hard, but you're going to have to if you're going to vote.